drawn into question now, is the single desk model the better model, or is a deregulated model the better model? I think there's a lot of hard work to be done in the pit fruit sector to actually to get things sorted out and to get the industry back on its feet. It's slowly shrinking, and people are seeing better uses for their land. So, you know, it's going to be a pretty tough ask to turn that industry round.
Yeah, but moving back to regulation wouldn't seem to be very likely, would it, Duncan? The government has made some pretty strong signals in that area.
Yeah, I don't think so, but yeah, I mean, as Ian says, they really have to get a good platform to work off, and we're seeing these businesses go under. It might be a function of them having too much debt, which is not a good thing, as we know, but and also who they borrowed from. But it's also the profits are down. They're not being able to get their product to the market at the right time, and it's really hurting them. So let's hope that, you know, we need someone to step up there and actually band together to make it work.
Yeah, I don't think the government's going to regulate. I can't ever see that happening. So it comes down to the groups of growers as to whether they can start
more concerted action
to work together and create some.
So you need a leader sort of in the field.
OK. Now, moving on to the Land and Water Forum report. I know this is a subject close to your heart, Ian. What do you make of the collaborative approach that's being championed? Nice words, but is it going to work? Well,
as I've said before, and David Carter's quoted me many times, that, you know, I think water is liquid gold. And to my mind, we need to collectively work. We need to use our water in the best possible way, and I'm really pleased with what I've seen coming out of the Land and Water Forum report. The next big step is, you know, it's all well and good for 60 organisations to come together and agree on a report. It's actually now getting some actions coming out of that, agreeing some of those standards, agreeing what's going to be done and how fresh water is going to be managed. Hopefully we see some pretty quick action on that. I've been pretty pleased with the response that both David Carter and Nick Smith have had to the report. So, you know, if we can get water working, we have a great opportunity to really take this economy forward.
Right. So, Duncan, do you think farmers should be fairly pleased with what's come out of the forum's report? It's got their interests at heart, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can't underestimate the importance of this, and yeah, I agree that they need ongoing security. They need certainty, and particularly in the dry land areas that need to be irrigated. So, yeah, I think from what I've seen, it looks good for them.
Right. Well, moving on, slightly related, the backers of the proposed large-scale dairying operation down in the Mackenzie country, they're having another go. Do you think they're more likely to be successful this time round, Duncan, or they're beating their heads against a brick wall?
Well, I'm not sure whether they're actually having another go or not. There's claims that they are. I think one of the companies involved came out this week and said, well, you know, we're going through the due process here, and I don't think, you know, they're sort of coming out and being hostile about it. They're trying to work through it. They just want to go ahead with what they want to do. Yeah, I think it's a long shot anyway.
Yeah. What do you think, Ian?
I was amazed when I read this the other day that they would come back so quickly. You know, I think the whole concept of intensive dairy farming needs to be worked through. I don't think the Mackenzie country is the place to start that. I think we need to try it in some other places first. But I think that I can't see they've got any opportunity of success this time round either. Already you're seeing the same people that attacked the last proposal being pretty vigorous in their arguments against it. Right,
OK. Well, across the ditch, Prime Minister Julia Gillard, she seems to be moving away from the idea of a carbon tax, which she initially seemed to be quite keen on. What does this mean for us, Ian, in terms of close eyes always on Australia when it comes to emission trading and greenhouse gases?
I've been saying for the last little while, ETS for us isn't about managing emissions. It's about market access. It's about being seen to do something. We still need to be seen to be doing something. I think it's going to look pretty bad on Australia, and it will impact their ability to get market access if they're not doing something aggressive in this area. ETS is a horrendously badly designed tax, and like any tax, it comes in and it gets changed. So hopefully by 2015 we see some pretty dramatic changes to ETS. But we can't not have ETS, is my perspective.
And just quickly moving on to the Trans-Pacific Partnership talks that have got underway again, Duncan. There appear to be a few fishhooks here, but there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow still?
Yep, and you know, these things take time. They take a lot of negotiation, and it's also about the timing of when these things are brought up. And I guess what Labor in the past were good at was making mileage out of trade talks when the opportunity for them to get a good response. So that's what National will be looking for, is bang for their buck on releasing sort of progress on these things.
TTP is the most important thing our government's doing at the moment. It really is giving us a chance to be a genesis of what could be an equivalent Asia-Pacific trading union, equivalent to the European Union, and be in at the design of that. We can't afford not to be there, and we can't afford for these to fail. So it's great Obama's on board with it, but we really need to make sure that we do what it takes to get it to work.
Well, we'll keep our hopes high. Yeah. Next up, you beauty, praise or a bollocking, the opposite. See who gets what. Welcome back to Straight Talk. Now it's on to you beauty, praise or a bollocking, the opposite. Now, Duncan, I think you've got one of both for us this week, have you?
Yep, a bit of praise, I think, for the farming community down south. They breed them tough down there, and
they sure do.
And they're doing it pretty tough at the moment. You know, they're copping some criticism about lambing at this time of the year, but I don't think that's warranted. And I think it could have been worse for them if the ewes were in lamb. They could have lost both sets of.
Absolutely.
But and they're good on them. You know, they deserve a bit of slack on this, I think. Do
you think there will be more covered yards or shelter built down in Southland after this event? Farmers will take it as a timely warning. You know, they've been thinking about this for the last few years. Just do it.
I don't think they can really afford it,
no.
and that's the issue. You know, they can't really even borrow the money for it. So it's, you know, it's something that may come over time. The traditional New Zealand farming has never really had that sort of farming, so you know, I mean, it's a cultural change as well.
Yeah, so might take a bit of time.
Yeah, that's
now,
right.
On to your bollocking. What's that to do with?
Well, I struggle with the Save the Farms campaign. I think it's ridiculous, but at the same time, I wonder whether there's a sort of a plan and behind it all, with some of the people that are behind it. I wouldn't be surprised if they pop up in an election campaign in one or perhaps a new party. I think they're just getting some publicity undergo now.
But there's been a huge groundswell of opinion from the general public, which is very anti selling farmland overseas, and right up to the Prime Minister. People seem to be taking notice of it. These people are just mirroring that sentiment, aren't they?
Yeah, it's kind of, well, it's an emotive issue for the layperson, but those that are sort of right amongst it have other issues, and you know, we are investors in other countries offshore. We saw.
Yeah, do unto others as you would have them do to you.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we can't turn off the taps of the all-important global economy.
No. Ian, what do you think? Do you agree with Duncan?
Yeah, I do. My personal view is that as a country that's always depended on capital from offshore, we're capital constrained at the moment. We need capital to let our industry grow. That's one way we can get capital in. I think it's making sure we don't sell too much and we don't allow too much aggregation, and we carefully look at that integration along the supply chain. We don't want people to be able to take themselves out of our institutions that we have here that are very, very successful at producing and exporting agricultural products.
Right.
So, yeah, I think the campaign's misguided.
What do you think about the recent government changes in terms of overseas investment? They sort of appeared to be trying to please everyone and didn't end up pleasing too many.
It's the Overseas Investment Act all over. It just keeps getting tweaked. And what it needed, which I thought was where the government were trying to do, is a complete overhaul to get it so it makes sense. The trouble is it's been a political beast. Michael Cullen kicked it around Auckland Airport. Now we've had to go around Crafers. We've got to take this act and get it right rather than continuously just tweaking it, because that gives no certainty to anybody.
Do you think the government will have another go at it, or it just wants to put it off to one side for the moment?
I think it's become politically very difficult. As Duncan says, it's a highly emotive issue, and I think they've pushed it for touch for at least another term.
Right, OK. Now, I believe, Ian, you've got a you beauty this week.
Well, yeah, praising the government now. I was very glad to see some funding going into Proudfoot and to actually think about those cultivars and continue that programme of trying to bring the apple that's going to change the world and change the industry. So it's good to see that funding coming through, and it's good to see the government being committed to helping innovation in our agricultural sector.
Right.
So I was really pleased to see that.
Is this coming a bit late? I mean, based on the fact that new cultivars take years of development work,
this is continuing a programme that's already been in place that, you know, needs to be continually funded. So it's good to see that funding still coming. And on the back of some of the major PGP announcements we saw in August, and, you know, it's great to see the government are really committed to R&D in the agricultural sector, and you know, that must continue.
Yeah. So this development with Proudfoot, that could be a very good way forward for other industries, perhaps even the vegetable growers, as we were talking about before. One
of the things we're talking about when I was down talking with one of the growers is you know, can the industry do a PGP? And you know, it needs to think about that. It needs to look at how it can work in partnership with the government to bring funding in. And PGP is not just about the underlying science; it's also about market development. So yeah, I think there is an opportunity there for the industry to think about something.
Let's hope that gets underway. Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thanks to my guests, KPMG Agribusiness Leader Ian Proudfoot and National Business Review journalist Duncan Bridgman. Thanks to you too for watching. Please email your comments to country99tv.co.nz. Check out my blog there, and we'll see you next time.